There you go. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started by coming into a constructive rest or another comfortable, easy position of rest. If you're joining me in a constructive rest, we're going to lay on our backs, letting the knees be bent and the soles of the feet come down onto the floor about hip distance or even a little bit wider. The knees can stay pointing up towards the ceiling, or they could start to gently come towards center, kissing and resting against each other. Your hands can rest on your body or lay alongside the body with the palms face up. As you settle in, maybe take a few movements to wiggle in here, lengthening your breath, letting it become a little longer, a little deeper, and more intentional. As you settle into this moment here, we'll feel our shoulders pressing against the ground if we are laying. And we'll begin to notice how the body is feeling today. Noticing if there are any muscles that are feeling sore, any tiredness in our energy level. Not giving judgment to these things, but to simply allow ourselves to come into awareness of how our body is feeling in this moment. And as we move throughout our practice today, we'll continue lengthening our breath, allowing our exhale to let us become a little softer, a little heavier in a seat or on the floor. Most people are aware of the importance of self-care, rest, and even sleep. But as a society, we do not do what is best for us in this area. We are chronically sleep deprived and even proud of the fact, since it indicates a life with total dedication to our passions or work. But the mind platter indicates that true dedication would consist of balancing the brain for optimal performance, which means taking it seriously, our downtime and our sleep time. Deepak Chopra. We'll start to get into our breathing exercise for this morning, taking in a 3-part breath today. With our 3-part breath, maybe you bring your hands down to your abdomen, letting them rest there. And as you breathe in, feel the air, letting your abdomen start to rise, and then take a short pause. We'll continue breathing in, maybe bringing our hands to the sides of our rib cage, breathing in, letting the rib cage start to expand, and then pause for just a moment. And then maybe taking the hands up towards the collarbone as we continue the breath in, filling it all the way. The hands simply being a helpful connection to the movement of the torso. And then as you exhale, a slow, steady exhale out. Feeling the lungs empty from top to bottom. You can continue to move the hands or simply allow the hands to rest as you focus on the function of the breath. Breathing in, pausing, breathing in, pausing, breathing in to fill up all the way, and then immediately starting that exhale slow and smooth, emptying completely out. We'll take this cycle of breath for just a few more cycles. Allowing yourself to sink into this moment. Releasing anything on your to-do list for later. But coming into this present moment by focusing on the breath. We'll take one last 3-part breath, finishing out this cycle. And then simply allow your breath to find its natural rhythm. And we'll take a moment to offer ourselves a little bit of gratitude that we came and took time out of our busy lives to simply be here in our practice, offering ourselves some self-care. Wonderful job. And then from right where we are, either on the floor or in your seat, begin to allow the knees to widen as we come into a butterfly pose. The soles of the feet stay together, the knees go wide. You're laying on the floor. You can even add a prop like a block on either side of the knees. Add a little bit of support during this first hip opener of our practice today. And again, the hands can stay on the body, on the lap, or maybe they even circle overhead. You're on the floor, it could be a cactus or a T. Or maybe you circle the fingers to interlace, whether you're seated on the floor or seated or laying. And let the hands come behind the head, opening the shoulders up wide in this reclined goddess pose. And take just a moment here just to roll through the back of the head, letting the neck find a little bit of movement as you roll the chin towards one shoulder and then the other. If your head is directly on the floor, it might feel like a little bit of a massage on the back of the head. If it's in your hands, maybe you add a little bit of finger movement, giving yourself a massage on the neck. Take a moment of self-care, noticing how the body is feeling. And if anything doesn't feel right, ask yourself, how can I make this feel better? And simply choose to do that. Beautiful job. We'll start to find a little bit of stillness if we haven't already. Our hands are anywhere but by our knees. We'll exhale and circle them down by our legs, using our hands to push our knees towards each other. We'll come back into our constructive rest or seated mount. And from here, let's come up to a seated position in a hero or a half hero's pose. So if you're taking a hero's pose on the floor, you're going to bring your knees together and maybe heels together. You can tuck those toes or sit on a prop. Anything here that would feel good to make this a great pose for you. Even coming up to stand on the knees, if that feels even better. Now, if you're seated in your chair today, we're going to take that as a half heroes and switch up halfway through. So you'll come over to the right side, take that foot back, sitting up tall through the spine, whether you are in your heroes or your half heroes. And then we'll go ahead and stretch our arms out wide to a T, lengthening through the body, and then inhale to bring the arms up overhead in a Y. We'll pause here for just a moment. Let the palms come forward And then notice as you sink your shoulder blades really deeply into their socket for just a moment here. And with an exhale, bend at the elbows, almost like a cactus, but continue coming through until your elbows are squeezed in by your sides, noticing how that feels through the shoulder blades. Beautiful job. Inhale, circle them back up overhead. And then with your exhale, drop your right hand down the spine. And then either grab your hand, your wrist, your elbow, or if you're using a strap, you can bring that strap in between the hands. We're dropping that right hand as far down the spine as feels good and trying to capture that right elbow up towards the ceiling. Keeping our spine straight here. Find that deep breath. Beautiful job. Our next exhale releases the left hand right by the hip, and then we're going to take it into a side bend as we press into the left hand, either on the floor or on our prop. We're going to make sure we're rolling our right shoulder back and then pressing that right hand overhead here. Feeling the rib cage on that right side just opening up here. Great job. Inhale to come back to your Y. And then with our exhale, we're going to twist towards the left, twisting from the hips, twisting our gaze over towards that left shoulder. Each inhale allows us to lengthen our spine, and each exhale softens us into this twist. Beautiful, heroes. Inhale to come back through center, Y through the arms, and then bring it down through a prayer. All righty. If you're taking half heroes, go ahead and switch over to the other side. Left foot goes back, and we'll all inhale up into that Y position once more. We're enjoying this, heroes. If you tuck those toes and that's feeling intense, you know you can always release it at any point. Exhale, find that W shape, pulling the elbows down and the heart forward. Beautiful job. Our next inhale, bring those arms back up overhead. And with our exhale, the left hand comes down the spine as we lift our left elbow up towards the ceiling, holding onto anywhere on that hand, arm, elbow, or strap. Doing a beautiful job here. Our next inhale brings us back up to our Y. Our exhale drops the right hand by our right hip to the floor or to a prop. And then we make sure our left shoulder is pulled back before we start to send that left arm overhead. Opening up through our heart space. Beautiful job. Let's go inhale, come back through center to the Y, and then exhale, twisting from the hips, looking towards your right side. Great job. Let's inhale, come back through center. If you're seated in the chair, you'll stay in your seated mountain. If you're sitting on the floor, you're going to lift up until you're standing on your knees. And if it's at all uncomfortable in your environment, maybe bring a blanket under the knees for a little more comfort. If you're seated in your chair, you're just sitting on the edge, feet flat on the floor. We're going to start by bringing our hands to our hips and really lengthening our spine up towards the ceiling. And then start to lift your hands up overhead. Now they can be in front of you or straight up by the ears, but we're feeling length and extension through the body no matter where we're at. And as we inhale, start to look up to where the room and the ceiling meet. And then start to push your hips a little bit forward. And maybe start to take your gaze back between your hands, or even take your hands a little bit back behind your head, finding a camel variation. Inhale to come back through center, gaze to the horizon, and then you can take this variation, or if you'd like, maybe bring your hands to your back, lower back, And let the fingertips come down towards your hips, squeezing elbows by your sides. If you're seated in the chair, maybe you're bringing them to the back of the chair or even to the seat of the chair. So we have lots of options here. As we inhale, we're going to take that same lean back as we start to gaze up and push our hips forward. Now we can either stay right here, hands on hips, or if you want to go a little lower, you could have some blocks by your feet and bring your hands down to the blocks or to your heels even. So lots of variations from hands overhead, hands on hips, hands on prop, or hands on heels. But wherever we're at, we're leaning back, looking up, pulling heart forward, pulling hips forward. One more great big old breath here. And with our exhale, let's bring it back through, gaze to the horizon, straight spine. Alrighty, great job. Now we're going to add just a little bit of a twist in here. So as we come into our camel pose, we're going to take our right side and we're going to cross it behind our body to the left side. So if you took it on your hip, you're going to just slide it over to your hip. If you took it on the foot or a prop, you're going to take it to the other side of the prop, no matter where you're at. And then we take our left hand, we begin to sweep it up overhead and maybe find that back bend and arch along with the back twist. Inhale to come through center. Exhale, we're going to take it to the other side. Left hand reaches over to the right side as we swoop that right arm up and overhead. Beautiful twist. Inhale to come back through center. Exhale, if you're on the floor, bringing hands onto the floor in front of you in a tabletop. If you're seated in your chair, we'll stay in a seated mountain. And we'll start to take a 4-count cow. So with our exhale, we're going to count to 4 as we drop our belly and lift our gaze. And then once we got to 4, we'll reverse that, exhaling for our count of 4 as we pull the spine towards the chair or up towards the ceiling. Taking this at your own pace for a count of 4. And allowing yourself to really feel the movement of your torso in your spine as you slowly start to move. And then we're going to flow from there into any movement that feels good for you today. So you could take circles or barrel rolls. You could look over one shoulder down at your foot and then the other, or anything that feels good to move through your spine, your neck, your shoulders, wrists, knees. Alrighty. Last breath of movement. Make sure to balance out whatever you did. And then inhale to come back to your tabletop or your seated mountain. And from here, we're going to take a thread the needle variation. So we have a couple of options here. You're seated in the chair or would like to come up to a standing on the knees position. We'll take our right arm out to the side as we stand on our knees or sit in our chair. If we're going to stay from our tabletop position, you're going to take your right hand out to the side as well. And then as we exhale, we're all going to take that hand, thread it across our torso. If you're on the tabletop, you're going to drop your shoulder and right ear down towards the floor or a prop, letting your weight assist in the stretch of that outer shoulder. If you're standing up on your knees or in your chair, you're going to bring it across your chest. You can hold the right arm with the left hand anywhere that feels good. Or you could even bend the elbow, reaching the hand along the left shoulder. And again, using that left hand to gently guide the stretch We'll take just a couple more breaths in your thread the needle of choice. Feeling that stretch through the outer right shoulder here. Beautiful job. With our inhale, we're going to stretch the right arm out to the side. And then let's take that on the other side. So then send your left arm out to the side. Our exhale threads it across our chest. Taking the tabletop twist, or maybe one of the stand or seated or kneeling versions. Take just a couple more breaths here. Enjoying this stretch maybe, or maybe not enjoying it very much. But if that's the case, maybe seeing if there's something you can adjust to make it feel a little better. Sometimes it's simple as bringing a block under the head or a bend into the elbow. Beautiful job. Our next inhale takes that left hand back out to the side, and then let's reset in our tabletop or seated mountain. All right, if you're on the floor, we're going to come over onto our hips and bring our feet in front of us in that same constructive rest configuration with the knees about hip distance apart and the soles of the feet on the floor. We're going to sit up tall through the spine, maybe with a prop under our hips. And if you're in the chair, you're in your seated mount, same option. We're going to start with a figure 4. So if you'd like to take your legs long on the floor and then bring your right ankle over to your left thigh, letting your right knee fall open, bringing your hands behind you for some support here on the floor. You can either stay with that leg extended long, or you could start to bring a bend into the knee, which would move your right shin a little closer to your torso. You can adjust how deep that is with the foot. If you're seated in the chair, you always have the option of bringing the foot all the way up to the thigh, or maybe just bringing it up to on top of a prop. The goal here again is just to have that external hip rotation, opening the knee out to the side, flexing everyone through that right ankle. And again, maybe bringing the heart just a little closer to the chin with a forward fold, if that helps. All right, no matter which figure 4 you're in, we'll go ahead and either lengthen the leg if you're sitting up on the floor, or bring your heart away from the thigh. So we're coming out of the pose and we're going to find a rock the baby leg. So you can grab the foot and the ankle with your hand, maybe with your elbows, or maybe with a strap. And then we'll start to move that right leg left to right, rolling onto the outer hip or upper glute maybe. It's really allowing ourselves to get into that leg. We're going to be doing a lot of hip work today, so noticing what's going on there. All righty. Let's go ahead and start to either hold behind our leg, hold anywhere along the foot, ankle, or leg. Maybe great breath, bring your strap and start to send that leg out long in front of you in a heron's pose. You can always keep a bend in the knee or press through the heel to keep it straighter, but lengthen through the spine. And if you notice that you're rounding and hunching here, maybe finding a way, bringing the leg a little lower or bending the knee until your core feels engaged and you're sitting up tall here. You're doing great. We're going to hold this for one last moment. And then with our exhale, release whatever is holding the leg and let it slowly come to the ground. Great job. Take any movement you'd like. And then let's take that on the left side. So we find our figure 4. We inhale to straighten the spine. And our exhale brings us with our chest and torso as close to that shin as feels good. Keeping that left foot flexed no matter where it's at. The left knee opening to the left side, that external hip rotation. Feel your breath, no matter where you're at. All right, one last breath here on this side. Noticing if it feels any different than it did on the other side just a few moments ago. Okay, our exhale allows us to come out of this pose, either lengthening the leg or sitting up tall if we're seated. And then we're going to find our rock the baby. So capturing the leg and starting to rock it left to right. Maybe bring a hand to the floor of the chair as you rock to the outer edge or upper glute. One last breath. And then our inhale finds our heron pose. Sitting up tall as we can as we extend that leg in front of us. Holding it for just another moment. You're doing great. Our next exhale allows that foot to release slowly to the ground, controlling it using the core. Great job. Take any movement. All righty, we're going to take it open wide. If you're seated on the floor, you can straighten the legs or keep the knees bent. Even having a prop under the knees, like a blanket or a pillow, could be nice. And if we're seated in the chair, we're still going to open our legs as wide as feels good. But go ahead and keep a bend in your knees this time so your feet are firmly under you and supporting you. Either way, we're going to sit up tall through our spine. For our first breath, we'll take those arms up and overhead into our Y. Take an exhale to bring it to your W. Inhale back to that Y. And our next exhale brings the hands in front of us, maybe onto your thighs if you're into the chair or the floor, or maybe even a prop as we begin to hinge into a forward fold, coming into a pancake pose. Inhale to come back up to a straight spine. And then if we are seated in the chair, we're going to send that right leg out long. If we're seated on the floor, we're going to bring a bend into our left knee and tuck it into our right thigh. All right, with our inhale, we bring our hands back up overhead into the Y. Our exhale, we're going to find that same forward fold, maybe bringing hands to your legs or to a prop or to the floor in front of you as you hinge forward. And notice how having just one leg straightened out here and the other one bent changes the stretch in the lower back or glutes or maybe even thighs. Great job. Inhale to come back to a straight spine. Look over towards that extended leg, and then we're going to walk ourselves down that leg. Hands can rest anywhere along the leg, the foot, or the floor, or a prop. Great job. With our inhale, we come back up to a Y. Our exhale, we drop that left hand by the left hip, and then we're going to take it over into a side bend. Again, just like before, pull the shoulder back and then shoot the left hand overhead as you feel the rib cage expanding along the entire right side of your body, pointing maybe even your right toes away from you to really allow that stretch to be from toes to fingertips. Great job. Inhale back to your Y. And then we're going to twist over our extended leg from the hips. Beautiful job. Inhale back through center. With our exhale, send ourselves back into our wide-legged pose. Exhale, pancake pose again. Exhale as we release. Notice if it feels like you are any deeper, any more in. Inhale to lengthen the spine. And then let's take it on the left side. So left leg is long, right leg, if you're seated in the chair, is bent. If you are on the floor, it's bent, and that foot tucked in to the inner thigh. Inhale to lengthen our spine up to the Y. Exhale, find that hinge into your forward fold. Again, taking just a moment to notice if it feels any different than the pancake pose we were just in. Inhale to walk your hands back towards your hips. Dropping right hand by right hip, and then taking left hand up as we roll the shoulder back, and then open up through that left rib cage, maybe even pointing left toes. Finding that length and extension down our entire left rib cage, thigh, calf, toes, shin. Inhale to come back through center, arms up wide. Exhale, twist it to the left. All right, let's exhale through center. And then we've done such a great job on our seated poses today, but let's come up to a standing and get some standing poses in as well. Make sure to move any props out of your way that you're not using right in this moment. And you're always welcome to come a little closer to a wall for more steady support. We'll start in our mountain pose, letting our selves feel our weight really settle into the ground beneath us as we stand tall here. With our inhale, begin to lift those arms up and overhead, feeling that big old Y as you reach up. Exhale, W. Inhale, reach it up. And then we're going to take ourselves to a side bend over towards the right. You can bring your right hand to your right hip. You can bring it to a prop for support, or you can take your right wrist and encircle your left wrist as we start to take that left hand, just like before, up and over. Inhale through center, and we'll switch sides. So whatever you did on the other side, taking that same stretch on this side, leaning right hand over to the left. Beautiful job. Inhale back to your Y, tall mountain. And with an exhale, we're going to rain the fingertips down as we come into our first forward fold. Hands can come to your legs, to your prop. Go ahead and keep a nice gentle bend in the knees. Maybe even coming into a little bit of a walking your forward fold, lifting one heel and then the other. Great job. Go ahead and let that come down to stillness. Wherever your hands are resting, whether it's the floor, your legs, your prop, press into them to begin to lift halfway, coming into that figure 7. Engage through the core as your gaze stays straight down. Beautiful job. Exhale, release into your forward fold. And with our next inhale, let's take a slow roll, coming all the way up to standing. Once our shoulders and head arrive, circle hands up, feel that length and extension. Great job. Exhale, bring it down through a prayer. And from here, let's step back with our right foot into a high lunge position. We're going to take a moment to set up here, making sure we feel secure and not wobbly. Maybe widening how far the feet are from each other or from the width. You can keep your hands on your prop, on your hips. You could bring it to a prayer. Or if you're feeling nice and steady and secure, maybe you shoot those fingertips up towards the ceiling with the arms alongside the ears, where we're pulling our core in towards our spine and we're squeezing our thighs together. Keep this very active in the lower body. All right, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a balance challenge here. So in the next moment, go ahead and find a spot on the floor in front of you that is not moving and begin to watch that spot. And then take your weight into that front leg. Again, maybe you have a prop in front of you or beside you to hold on for support, but begin to lift those back toes. You can drag them along the ground or lift them off completely as you bring that right knee in front of you in a standing half staff. And then from here, we're going to take just a couple of ankle circles in one direction and then the other. Beautiful job. Now let's see if we can open that right knee out to the right side and find a tree pose, letting the right foot come along the left leg, anywhere from floor, ankle, all the way up to the inner thigh. You can keep your hands on your hips, maybe a prayer, maybe they're resting on a prop for support, or maybe you start to grow branches of your choice. Anything from that Y to a W, to a cactus, to a circle, or to a wiggly wobbly tree in a forest. Whatever feels good in this moment for you. Still looking at that spot on the floor that's not moving. Great job. If you grew branches or lifted hands, go ahead and bring them back down to hips or your support. And then go ahead and bring that right knee back through center. We're going to send the leg out long into a full standing staff. Beautiful job. And then with our exhale, step it back gracefully as you can into your lunge. Okay to step down at any point or challenge yourself. Great job. Go ahead and straighten both legs to release and then step the back foot into your mount. Inhale, circle arms up and overhead. We're going to take our right side bend. Come back through center. Taking your left side bend. Back through center. As we exhale, I want you to take your hands behind your body, maybe grabbing opposite fingers, opposite wrists, opposite elbows, or even just your shirt or your strap, dropping the knuckles down towards the floor. Beautiful job. Exhale, start to hinge into your forward fold, pausing at halfway. You can keep the hands here on the hip, or for more support, drop them down to your prop. Or maybe for more of a challenge, start to lift the hands off the hips, stretching them more through the shoulders. You can stay at halfway lift, or you can continue a little deeper into your forward fold if that feels good for you. And then with our exhale, no matter where your hands are, drop them to your hips and then exhale as you drop them to your prop or floor or legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hinge. Inhale, tall mountain. Exhale, bring it down through a prayer. Let's take that flow on the opposite side, stepping that left foot back into our crescent lunge. Take your time setting up here so that you feel steady, supported. You feel like you're challenging your core, you're challenging your legs. And then if ready, find those hand placements of choice. It can be the same as before, or you could try something a little bit different. All right, we'll take just another breath here, setting up. And then when you're ready, find the spot on the floor. It's a really great thing to focus on as you begin to shift your weight to the front foot. And then as you're ready, lift those back toes and bring that knee bent in front of you in your half staff. Again, feel free to touch down or not. Beautiful job. Now opening the knee to the left, finding your tree pose. Once you feel steady, maybe growing branches. And again, maybe they're the same as before, or maybe it's something different. Great job. All right, with our next inhale, we're going to bring that foot knee in front of us, send the foot out long as we can for just a moment, and then exhale as we find our way back into our lunge. Inhale, straighten both legs, and then walk the back leg forward. All right, great job. All right, we're going to build a little bit of arm, wrist, and elbow and core strength all at once by working on some plank variations. So a great option, instead of doing it on the floor, is to do your planks on a wall if you have the space available, bringing hands bent at shoulder distance apart and making sure there's enough of a lean that you're putting weight and fully loading all the same joints. Now, if you're taking this on the floor, you are more than welcome to be taking a half plank with the knees down and the toes lifted, or taking a full plank with the knees lifted. But wherever you're at, really focusing on keeping the shoulder, elbow, and wrist in a straight line and keeping your core engaged and ready to ignite. Alrighty, now from whichever variation we're at, we're more than welcome to stay here and just take a few breaths. Or for a little more of a challenge, let's focus on keeping our hips in neutral, but then lifting our right hand and touching somewhere along that left arm. It could be at the wrist, it could be at the elbow, or even the shoulder. You could even just slide it a little over if that feels like a better option for you. But we're focusing on keeping our hips in neutral and not opening as we take this transition left to right. So a little bit of focus here. Again, just go a little bit over and lift off and hit the elbow or the shoulder, wherever your body's at today. And see how much of this movement can be done only in the upper body, not in the lower body. All right, a little smile maybe, if it's possible. All right, balance out, come through center, plank pose of your choice. And then with our exhale, we're going to release, coming into a downward dog variation. So if you're on the floor, you can lift your knees and hips. If you're on the wall, keep your hands where they are. Simply walk them back, hips back, and start to pedal through the legs as you press into the hands and let your head drop in between the arms. We'll take just a couple of pedals in our downward dog variation of choice. Find a little bit of stillness. Look back between your legs. And then with our next inhale, begin to walk your hands away from the floor or the prop till you come into a forward fold. Beautiful job. From our forward fold, we're going to walk our hands over to the right side of our space. We're going to begin to bend our right knee and then circle our right hand out to the side and up. Exhale to release through center. Taking yourself over to the left side of your space. Pausing, beginning to bend that left knee as you lift the left arm out to the side and up. Exhale to release through center. And our inhale rolls us up to a straight spine. We'll circle hands up and overhead into that Y, and then look up between your hands and either stay there or maybe take the hands a little bit behind into a back bend. And then exhale, bringing the gaze back through center. Bring hands down through prayer. And then let the hands come down by the hips, maybe even grabbing opposite hands once more. Take the funny grip. So whichever one was on top, switch it up and change it somehow so that the opposite one is on top this time. Letting the knuckles come down towards the floor. Inhaling, opening up through the heart. Exhaling, hinge into your forward fold. Stopping at halfway. Pause here. This is where you get to choose. Hands down, hands stay where they're at, or hands lift up for a more intense shoulder stretch. And then either staying at halfway lift or maybe going even deeper into your forward fold if that feels good for you. We'll take 3 breaths. Our next exhale allows our hands to drop if they were lifted, and then they'll all come down into our full forward fold. Halfway lift. Exhale to release. Inhale, tall mountain. And let's bring it down through a prayer. Beautiful job. All righty, let's go into one more seated position. So we're going to come down onto the ground maybe, or into our chair. Sorry about that. Okay. We'll come down either seated into our chair or onto the floor. And if we're on the floor, we're going to come so that our left leg is parallel to our body. And then our right knee is pointing the knees in the same direction and the feet in the same direction, but the foot is tucked back by the hip. We're going to lengthen ourselves, pointing over that bent knee shin, like a pigeon pose almost. And if we're seated in the chair, we're going to come back to that figure 4 on the left side. As we inhale, no matter where you're at, lengthen through your spine. And with an exhale, see what it feels like to begin to hinge forward, letting your heart come closer to that front left shin. If you're on the floor, you are more than welcome to have a block or another prop under your elbows, or even stay up a little bit higher if that feels better for you. Beautiful off sides half pigeon. With our inhale, go ahead and come back to your straight spine, and we're going to switch sides. This time, our right leg is in our pigeon variation. We're going to sit up tall through the spine. And then with your exhale, begin to find your hinge over that bent right leg. And just like in all of our pigeons or figure 4s, we want to keep that right ankle flexed here. Great job. Last breath. Inhale to come up to a straight spine. And with our exhale, if you're on the floor, go ahead and come onto your seat, and then roll onto your back into a ball. And if you're seated in your chair, I want you to hinge forward, maybe even bringing your toes in just a little bit behind you and curl in as much as you can into a little ball. So whether you're on your back on a ball or in your chair in a ball, maybe you find a little bit of movement. You could rock from side to side or along the spine. And then finally, just creating a little tension in your body, squeezing hands, squeezing toes, squeezing your jaw. And then when you can't make any more tension in your body, allow yourself to begin to relax. You can spread out into a corpse pose. You can come back into that constructive rest that we started class with. You can stay in your chair and maybe add some pillows or some blankets. You can really take whatever movements, whatever adjustments, or whatever props would help you to come into a place where you can relax on command. And once we settle into this space, we'll take a full breath in, holding it at the top. And then with our exhale, we'll allow ourselves to feel this transition inward. We'll maybe close our eyes or simply soften our gaze as we allow our eyelids to grow heavy and relax the space between our brows and even the corners of your eyes. Begin to allow your jaw to release. And maybe even your tongue can begin to soften. Eventually, allowing your jaw to release. And your entire body follows. Complete relaxation. As your breath becomes effortless and smooth. By committing to a more peaceful existence, you uphold a culture that values stillness as much as toil, quality over quantity. You give your dreams and your people vibrant energy, focus, and patience that they deserve. And you give yourself the break that you've inwardly been longing for. Real rest feels like every cell is thanking you for taking care of you. It's calm and not full of checklists or chores. It's simple, not multitasking, not fixing broken things. Not only are you strong enough to take care of the whole world, you're also strong enough to say no and simply take care of you. There are two types of tired. one where you require sleep, and the other is when you require peace. Your calm mind is the ultimate weapon against your challenges. We are allotted sweet integration and restoration time so that we can be more effective during our days. Toxins are cleared, muscles repair the tiniest of tears. Our immune system, digestive system, and circulatory and even nervous systems are nurtured, and our heart and lungs get a chance to recoup. Maybe even our spirit is granted time to regroup. When you love yourself, you glow from the inside. You attract people who love, respect, and appreciate your energy. Everything starts with and how you feel about ourselves. When we start to feel worthy, valuable, and deserving of receiving the best life has to offer, we become magnetic. As we take the deepest breath of our day so far, be magnetic. Begin to wiggle fingers and toes, noticing the props that are surrounding you, the floor, the chair, blankets, anything else. And then in your own time, in your own way, begin to come up to an upright position facing me.